Hi, and welcome to Chain Reactions, a weekly live stream from XYZ, the leading global marketing network, and hosted by yours truly, Blake, and my co-host, Polina. Tune in each week as we jam on the latest happenings in the wild and wonderful world of Web3. We're live on Unlonely.app every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, and release the pod every following week on Tuesdays. Now, let's talk Chain Reactions.
Yeah, I am.
Well, let's kick this off. Well, thank you so much, James, for joining us. Well, actually, real quick, I guess for anyone who's tuning in now or starting to tune in on the podcast later on, welcome to Chain Reactions. This is the weekly live stream where Polina and myself talk to, our esteemed guests from across Web3, heads of marketing, and really just talking about really cool and interesting projects and what they're doing and things we're doing. So I think today we're talking about marketing or through info really, and we have our esteemed guest James, and I'll hand it over to you to start to introduce yourself, and let's jump into things.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever been the term esteemed used to describe me. So I'll embrace it for now, but yeah, hi everyone.
Just taking a run with it. Yeah.
yeah, I guess so. I'm James, head of marketing at Risk Labs, which is the foundation that oversees both UMA Protocol and Across Protocol. I joined the team about 8 weeks ago, actually, so I'm still pretty fresh here leading the team, but really just super excited to dive in. And I know we've got some good questions. Polina said it might get a little spicy at some points, which I'm excited for. Love some good spicy questions, and just honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I mean, Risk Labs has two products, right? UMA Protocol and Across. So just to set the stage, we'll dive into UMA for a little bit and then focus on Across. So for those who don't know what UMA is, it's basically a decentralized courtroom, right, for a blockchain that secures over 1 billion of assets. And Polymarket and Snapshot both use UMA. So, I'm curious, with prediction markets booming right now, UMA must be as well. So it must be an exciting time, but also an overwhelming one since you just joined 8 weeks ago. So I'm wondering how you're tackling this and what do you see as your biggest challenge right now?
Yeah, it's actually really fun to do this recording today because we just had the US election, for example, and if you haven't heard of Polymarket at this point, I think it's because you live under a rock. Like everyone, not just Web3, but everyone kind of globally has been all eyes on Polymarket. What I think is really interesting is if you were tracking the election results, Polymarket called it first. And I think it's an interesting kind of proof case to say, like, the open market is actually a better indicator of what is truth in the news than what we can see from kind of established businesses that are feeding us that truth, right? So if we
that mainstream media that people be talking about, yeah,
right. And I don't know, maybe mainstream media. That's such an interesting term, and I don't even know that the people who use it, I don't even know if they know how they would define that, but yeah. But it really is an interesting use case to say, we're decentralizing fact-finding, decentralizing truth, putting that on the blockchain, having it verified with our Oracle. I think it's actually like something that can get quite philosophical really quickly when you start to ask yourself the question, like, what is truth? But the way we've been talking about it most recently is like, truth is a public good. We all should have access to truth. And in the advent of AI and fake news and all sorts of kind of question marks around what is true, what we're doing is we're saying, no, there is a way to verify truth, and there is a way to know if something is true or not true. And the way that we can verify those things is by decentralizing how truth is decided. And that's the work we're doing with UMA. The proof case is very much the prediction markets today, but it goes far beyond prediction markets. Yeah, well, maybe I'll pause there. Yeah.
In simple terms, can you just explain to me how it works? Because I know that you have an UMA token that you can use to, verify a vote, and then you can earn on it, and you can earn up to like 34% APR. But I also saw that if you verified it wrong, so you said whatever is true wrong, you lose your earnings, like you lose your tokens. How do I know if something is true or not?
Wait, real quick, before we even dive in, that's a great question, but I do think it's important to set context for all listeners, just because I just to be clear, I don't, and we love UMA, right? But I do want to make sure that James gets a chance to explain exactly what it is, right? Because I think, I think most people in crypto are familiar with oracles and all that, but I think there definitely should be a chance to talk about what is UMA, and as an oracle, why is it so unique? Why is it better than the others? And then let's get into token and all this stuff, because that I think will be really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. I thank you both for setting the stage. I think you're doing a good job of that. So the best way to think about what UMA is, UMA doesn't decide truth, right? Like the UMA organization and the product that we've built, what we have done is we've developed the infrastructure for where truth can be decided. So you mentioned kind of that courtroom analogy, Polina. The idea around that is that we're not the judge, we're not the jury. UMA is neither of those things, and UMA really isn't the audience that's in the courtroom, but rather UMA and the work that the optimistic oracle enables is kind of the framework for which truth can be found. And so we have what's called an optimistic oracle. And what does that mean? Optimism at the very core of it is you believe something to be true. And so we're taking the stance, the great example for today, Polymarket set 3 rules for kind of how the outcome of the election market would resolve. And it required Fox News, AP News, and NBC News to all 3 publicly announce the winner of the US election. When that happened, then someone, whoever catches it first or whoever wants the financial incentive to do it, proposes that market and proposes the result. In today's case, the proposal was that Trump won the election. After that proposal goes live, there's a 2-hour window in which disputes can happen. Let's just say for some reason, someone made the proposal and they got it wrong. They misread the AP News headline, or they were maybe trying to influence the market to turn out one way or the other. During that dispute window, others can dispute and say, no, that proposal is incorrect, or no, that proposal was too early. We don't actually know what the final outcome is yet. During that period, that's where we're able to say we're decentralizing the verification of truth. If no disputes happen during that period, which no disputes happened today, it was 2 hours of we're just letting the window be open. No one disputed it because it was pretty obvious and clear that the proposal was true. After that 2 hours happens, the market resolves. And then that sends, the data to Polymarket, and Polymarket disperses the earnings out to the folks who place their bets. That's sort of the way that the system works, is that we take this optimistic approach that whatever the proposed outcome is true, but we leave a window open in which people can come and dispute that. And if a dispute happens, that's where the UMA voting comes in. And that's the step that, Polina, you were kind of outlining. So the optimistic oracle, I'll kind of set the stage one more time. We take the optimistic approach. What is proposed is true, but there's a window in which disputes can happen. If a dispute happens, imagine kind of a branch off the flow chart. Now we're introducing a new set of steps. And in order to participate in voting on a dispute, so if someone disputed the outcome of the election today, anyone who is a staker of UMA, so you could, if you had 10 UMA and you decided to stake them, now you are participating in the vote with your UMA tokens. You are financially incentivized to vote for what is true, which means you should do some research. You should go and check the 3 sources. What did they actually say? Did they say Trump won, or did they say Harris won, or what was the outcome? Then you, as the voter, place your vote, and that vote then gets revealed after 24 hours. You have to go through the reveal process. But in order for that vote to go through, you have to be an UMA staker. That's where you're earning your 30% plus kind of your yield or your interest that you're earning, which is an incredible amount. think about if you had a bank account and you deposited money, you could earn 30%. Like,
wait, you say 30% yield? Now I'm getting UMA pilled.
Yeah.
I think,
oh, sorry, is the audio? Can you hear us?
No, it's okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. No, I was just, sorry to interrupt, but I was like, 30% yield. No, that's interesting. Back to you.
Yeah. But how many disputes actually happen? Like, how often would you?
Good question.
Yeah, so currently at the rate that there are disputes every day that I'm voting on. Like, we're voting on a regular basis. The way that your like earnings are calculated is if let's say you vote incorrectly, you don't lose all your stake tokens, but you get slashed. It's a very small amount. It's not massive, but it's enough to incentivize and say you can't be lazy. You can't just like click buttons and go through. Otherwise, you run the risk of you could be wrong and you lose some UMA tokens. So the financial incentive is kind of baked in that truth prevails. And the way that we're saying truth prevails is by decentralizing the market outcome and letting people kind of determine, yes, that's true, or no, that's not true. Then they earn based on the accuracy of what they voted.
Makes sense. Well,
I love that. Decentralizing truth. Sorry, pulling it back.
Yeah.
I mean, UMA, like I saw on the website that UMA powers quite a few, projects in crypto. But if I was judging by simply the content that you put out there, which is, mostly Twitter that's active for UMA, it's just Polymarket. You're like the best ambassador for Polymarket that's out there. So it felt to me a bit like you're putting all your eggs in one basket when it comes to, which is, I understand why you're doing this, because it's really like you're, riding the wave while this, is booming. But I'm curious, if something goes sideways or, Polymarket goes down, or I don't know what happens. What do you do then? Like, how do you get UMA out there?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. Personally, I think prediction markets are kind of like the lowest hanging fruit for use cases for an optimistic oracle. In the same way that like the NFT cycle in 2021 or the meme coin cycle that we're kind of still in today, it's sort of like the lowest hanging fruit or maybe like the easiest path to folks who are interested in making money. So I think prediction markets make sense today. It's there's a reason it's popular, right? We all love the idea, the game of chance, like placing a bet. Like that's something that's kind of innate in human nature. I actually am more excited about the potential of what it means to have an optimistic oracle that verifies truth. I was actually thinking about this, like, you guys remember Snopes.com? The whole concept behind Snopes is if you hear a rumor and you want to verify, was this true or not? Snopes is where you would go to kind of like understand,
debunk rumors and
exactly.
Yeah, it's the best. Exactly. I remember that because it's you go on it and it'll give you the whole context. It'd be like true, false, disputed, and it gives you all the Wikipedia for rumors. It was great.
Exactly. And Wikipedia is another great use case, right? Like Wikipedia, the whole reason, I don't know if you guys remember this, but back when I was in university, like Wikipedia was not an allowed source. Like you could not use Wikipedia in your papers. But I think the perception of Wikipedia has shifted. And it's because the idea of decentralizing information actually works. And Wikipedia is quite accurate these days, and Snopes is a good example of that too. What I think is interesting is if you implement
and just to pause on that, right? It's that idea of just crowdsourcing information is something that I think we've seen in Web 2, but just building on kind of what you're saying, like there's, I guess, a question I had in my head that I guess I'm kind of answering, but it's a nice segue, and I'll throw the ball to you in a second, right? Is this idea of when you decentralize networks and you use the wisdom of the crowds, there's some really powerful stuff that can happen, which is Snopes and Wikipedia. The challenge is Wikipedia is, as a non-profit kind of like organization, there's no like financial model for them. And so when I go on Wikipedia, I'm getting begged every day for like, give me $5, give me $2. I'm like, can I send you crypto? Unfortunately, their founders are not very pro crypto, right? And so that's where I think something like UMA could be very interesting. someone build a decentralized Wikipedia maybe one day using something like UMA? My brain's just running, but the ball back to you. You know, maybe that's a hackathon project. Someone should do it. I don't know.
If you're listening to this, don't steal that. Blake said it first, and actually, you didn't. Not even you. Like, that's something that I think when you start to consider what does it mean to put truth on the blockchain, that's a very natural use case. But there's so many other avenues that I think are much richer and much more like deep and meaningful than prediction markets. And that's not to slight, like, if you're playing with prediction markets, I hope you're having a great time. I hope you are making some money along the way. It's one use case, but it's not the only use case. And I can't say too much, but we've got more coming that will expand our horizons beyond what prediction markets offer. It's just,
can you give us some alpha on like the general concepts that you're thinking about, or frameworks, maybe, without naming any specific companies or anything? Curious. I guess like when it comes to truth. Oh, sorry.
Verification of truth extends beyond just facts. Like when you think about ownership, who truly owns something, that needs to be verified. And if it's verified and on the blockchain, you have an immutable ledger that proves ownership. I think that's a tangential kind of parallel that runs very closely with like what NFTs are trying to do. But oftentimes I think we see NFTs and then you see all the copies that happen, right? So how do you know which is the original or not? If you remove the layer of crypto Twitter, it's really difficult to verify that. I think there's opportunity for
all the apes
we have opportunity
that people
to
randomly
use the Oracle, verify those types of things.
Would you say that in terms of, growing the UMA as a brand, are you focusing more so on, like B2B relations, so or users that actually buy the token? Because I mean, you kind of have to do both, but I would imagine you're more focusing on the B2B side, right?
What's interesting is it is both, and it just depends on like what day you're asking. We are very much like, if you're listening and you're like, oh, I need an Oracle, I need something to implement and have verification of whatever you're building, like, let's talk, because we're very much working very closely with other teams to help give them the infrastructure that they need to continue to do what they're doing. But at the end of the day, B2B doesn't matter if we don't have users who know about what we're building. And so it's kind of both. We're sitting between the B2B, B2C worlds.
Okay. I'm also asking because I've seen quite a bit of scam conversations in your comments and Discord, and not to call you out, but I'm curious where the FUD is coming from and how you're tackling it.
This is the unfortunate reality of disputes. I mean, you can even go back to think about like the ancient story of King Solomon, like the disputes of like, you go to someone who has authority to help you settle an argument. What that means in reality is that one person will be happy and one person will be mad. And when finances are involved, when financial rewards are involved, the person who wins is very happy, but oftentimes they're happy and they just kind of go on their merry way. And the person who loses that dispute is very mad and oftentimes very loud. Unfortunately, we have to deal with that because we then, I think, falsely get attributed as if UMA decided and made that happen. But no, we're not the judge, we're not the jury. We provided the framework and the voters decided. And that's the difficult part here, is helping people understand it's decentralized. Like it's voters who are choosing.
But it's clear what the truth is in the end. Like in terms of user experience, if it's unclear to them as to why they lost, is there some sort of gap, or they just don't get it, or they're just in denial?
Yeah. I don't want to say they're in denial. I don't want to paint them in a bad light, but I can empathize with how they feel. Like they believed one thing would be true, or maybe they didn't, but they were financially incentivized to try to push that forward, and then they lose out on X amount of dollars. Like, I can empathize with how that feels. I also would be upset. And at the end of the day, truth will always come out. And that's kind of the framework we're trying to provide, is a space for truth. The thing we say is truth is a public good. Everyone should have access to truth, and we're just trying to provide the means for them to have that access.
So
really
the biggest challenge, the biggest challenge is to let the people who win actually share their wins, right? So that their voices are louder than those who were left unhappy.
I think so. I'm also not convinced that having people who are upset is the end of the world. Like, our job is not to make everyone happy. And I don't mean that in like James is an asshole, like he's not trying to make people happy. Like, no, it's not that. Like, we definitely want brand perception to be positive, but at the end of the day, our goal is not make everyone happy. Our goal is deliver what is true. And if we deliver what is true, all you can do is look at the facts. And then how you feel after that is kind of up to you.
A lot of sense. Being the arbiter, or being the protocol that helps determine truth, is not an easy job, right? Because as you just said, and then when money's involved, but tale as old as time, and we're trying to solve it with blockchain and crypto, and it's certainly the technology that can help with it, but we're swimming in uncharted territory right now, so we're figuring it out.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, just to like have a little fun with it, like, what are some of the most interesting disputes you've seen? Or like, I'm curious too, like what are interesting, most fun, the weirdest, the strangest? I'm just like, I'm sure you deal with dispute and you see this all day, right? But I'm curious.
Maybe a great example, I don't know if it's like most interesting or strange.
Okay,
but,
that's fine. But
do you follow F1?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you're watching the race, and you, as the viewer, you see who crosses the finish line first, and so you propose that I'm not a F1. I don't follow. Who's summoning Danny Ricciardo? Danny Ricciardo crosses first. Whoever
Ricardo,
it is.
whatever.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. They finish first. You see it with your eyes, but if you're a follower of F1, you know that does not always mean they win, right? Like, there are things that happen.
There are penalties. There are reasons that even when they came in first, they get deducted. They get 10 seconds added. So the person who came in second bumps to, many reasons, but
Bingo. And so we oftentimes see disputes around Formula One racing because the perception of who wins is not always who wins. And there's a period of time in which you have to wait for those penalties to all be accrued and counted for, and the official winner to be announced. If you don't understand that, and you're coming into this betting market, you're trying to move quickly because you want to get the little extra bonus for being the proposer. Right. But if you propose too early, and then the voters are like, there's no way you can say that he's the winner, you have to wait, then you actually get slashed because you jumped the gun and you were too early. And that's something we see often with sports.
With sports, it's everywhere, I would say. Like, it's...
It makes a lot of sense, because it's the very nature of like live events. What is true or not is not necessarily determined by your eyes. It's determined by the rules and the playbooks and all the things that come through.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I think if I was to summarize the UMA conversation, the work in decentralizing truth is not for the weak-hearted. Like, you definitely you face a lot of backlash, you face a lot of FUD, but it's work that's necessary because society is shifting. Like, I don't know if you've seen like the latest Unreal Engine AI, like the things they're generating. You cannot tell with the naked eye that it is computer generated or if it's live footage. You can't tell. We need a way to have truth verified. And I think this is the way to do it.
Disputes.
I don't want to give
How do you know?
How do you know? Actually, I want to ask that question with AI, because I feel like that's when AI really started to take off last year. This is a conversation we have within our community as well, quite a bit, which was like, it's coming up. And I think the conclusion a lot of people came to was this idea that blockchain is, as a trustless ledger, the best way to verify truth. However, I mean, which has evolved, and I'm sure you guys are thinking and doing stuff with this. There weren't many people actually implementing it. I don't know if that's giving too much away or if that's public yet, but how are you guys thinking about AI and blockchain and verifying what's real and what's not?
It's a good question. It's something we think about a lot. We're actively working on it. It's complicated. And I don't think it gets easier. Like as technology continues to advance, it's only going to become
exponential.
I mean, imagine 10 years from now, in the last 1 year, how much even just ChatGPT, like looking only at that example, how much better, smarter, faster it is today than it was a year ago. We're in an interesting, it's uncharted territory in every way.
Yeah. A lot of disputes.
Lots
of disputes.
Yes.
More UMA tokens. I mean,
yeah. It's good. And before I like slip up and say too much, let's switch over to Across.
Yeah.
Across. So Across is a cross-chain bridge, right? That unifies L2s with your new token standard, ERC 7683. Yeah, I got it right.
You did so I love it.
Thank you. So another infra protocol, love it. When I reached out to you initially, I was like, James, I saw you're so passionate about joining, Risk Labs, Across team, and it's another infrastructure project. And what are you doing different? Like, how are you planning to stand out in the sea of sameness of infrastructure protocols? So I'm going to ask you the same question now, live. What are you doing different?
I love it because you're setting me up to just like put Across in the spotlight in such a positive way. Cross-chain bridging is complicated. I think what we've seen in the last few years is, I don't know if you all remember like the bull cycle, NFT cycle of 2021, how many gas wars there were. The other side mint from Yuga, like how poorly that went, how many millions of dollars of gas were lost. It was tragic. Yeah. It's exactly right. Ethereum L1 had a scalability issue. The more users that came, the more unusable it was because scalability just wasn't there. We've conquered that as a space. We've solved that issue through L2s and rollups, and like we have the super chain and optimism and all these like incredible innovations that have made. I don't know if you bought an NFT on Base recently or transacted on Optimism. Like
I'm minting on rodeo.club all day.
Rodeo, exactly. But like the reason you can do it all day is because the cost is all but abstracted away. Like you barely pay transaction fees. So we solved scalability, but by doing that, what we have now is Base, Arbitrum, Polygon, Optimism, like every chain fragmented, separated, and now what we have is this like awkward experience when we sign with our wallet. We have to switch which version of our wallet, and there's this drop down that just keeps growing, and where do I have my ETH? I know I have enough ETH, but it's on Base or it's on Optimism or it's on mainnet. How do I move it from one to the other? That's a problem. And if we expect to onboard the next 1 million, 10 million, 100 million users, they won't have the same patience that we all do for that type of technology. Introducing ERC 7683. It's called Intents. The intention of the user when they click something, let's just say you're on an NFT marketplace. I keep using that. If you're listening and you don't know, I come with an NFT background. I worked at Rarible before. I love NFTs. I think it's a lot of really powerful use cases that come from the NFT use case. But fragmentation with multi-chain experiences means as the user, you can't just click, I want to buy this NFT with Base, use my ETH from wherever I have it. That's not there in a typical checkout experience. With Intents, what we do is we're basically decentralizing the way that order is filled. A good example: if you give me a $10 bill and I give you 5 back, you don't care what like serial number is on that $5 bill. You just care that it's a $5 bill and that you've got your correct change. In the same way that we don't care about serial numbers on our like fiat or our tangible money, we shouldn't care about which ETH we have, which ERC20 we have. Like it should be fluid. What Intents does is that we rely on relayers who they come and they fill these orders. And so you come and you say, I want to move 2 ETH from Base to Arbitrum, and you click send on that transaction. That goes to an open marketplace where relayers, we have, I think, like 35 or 40 relayers running today, are automatically picking those up and filling your order behind the scenes on the side. And then the actual order, or the order that's being kind of transacted on, is getting batched. And so when you batch, let's say we batch 1,000 bridging orders, we're able to then save on costs. And so we're saving money and moving quickly and eliminating kind of that friction that's experiencing there. A lot of competitors are doing a similar thing, but they're relying on a centralized relayer. I won't name any names, but there are a few in particular who have a lot of popularity right now. And I think if users really understood what was under the hood, they'd probably not use it, because it's quite terrifying, because you're relying on a centralized relayer to take your money and you're just trusting that the money will come back out. What happens if there's massive volume? What happens if there's any sort of security risk or vulnerability? The user is the one who has to take on that risk. Whereas by decentralizing the relayers and giving more options for those to be filled, the risk gets mitigated and the user doesn't have as much risk that they're taking on when they interact with the bridge.
Phew, a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I think it's such a funny thing in crypto where no, it's kind of, I'm just kind of like thinking about the implications of that, because I agree, like we need more centralization, like it creates a more resilient structure, but it's kind of one of those things I feel like where for consumers, even the crypto people, which is ironic, like they may not be thinking about that until it's too late, right? So it's like, until their money's lost, they may not be thinking about it. So I'm sure it's a challenging marketing problem. So I'd actually be curious to hear, like, how are you thinking about marketing across? And I think Paulina had some questions around. There's a recent Uniswap activation as well.
Yeah, that seemed to be a massive jump for across. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this has been going on for a while, because I've seen some exchanges, like friendly exchanges of content on Twitter with Uniswap. And I don't know how big the Uniswap team is, but it's a massive like brand, like massive project. And I imagine that to get this like monster of a collaboration, of a partnership moving, it required a lot of effort and a lot of time to coordinate all these details. So how did this, behind the scenes look like?
So we have a great relationship with Uniswap. Actually, the Uniswap team and the Across team collaborated, and we co-authored the 7683 standard. And so our history is really deep. We have a lot of really great things in store in the future, but this particular announcement that you all are talking about. So Uniswap is, it's in the name. You go to make swaps, right? And that's traditionally kind of what people would think of when they think of Uniswap. So if you needed to bridge funds first before making your swap, that bridging had to happen with a third party somewhere else. This was Uniswap integrating Across as the native bridge in the Uniswap app experience. So you don't have to leave the Uniswap experience to bridge. And then your bridging can happen in-app, your swapping can happen in-app, kind of creates a holistic experience. What it was like to work with their team, if I'm being really honest, it was just an honor. Like, I have memories of my first experience using Uniswap, and like I was following a YouTube video of like, here's what you do, here's how, like, how we all learned how to do crypto. We trust some random YouTube guy. That experience years ago, and then fast forward to today, where I'm like chatting with the head of communications at Uniswap. Shout out to Chantal, like she was incredible. She did, like, the team there is next level. They are world-class in every way. And we're really, it's an honor to be able to partner with them. And also for them to see like the work we're doing is the direction that this space needs to go. And to have them working with us as we're tackling the fragmentation issue and working to unify Ethereum again. It's nice to be shoulder to shoulder with their team.
That's so, since you co-authored this token standard, it was kind of only natural to have Across integrate with Uniswap. Are there some more integrations on the way?
Yes, we have more integrations on the way. Yes, we do. Yes.
But what I've seen from content perspective, also and community perspective, you own a tent emoji, and for me, well, I'm like, my view might be a bit skewed because for me, tent emoji associates with camp also, our friends from camp. So when I saw you're using tent emoji, for me it was a cross tent emoji. It didn't quite connect. So I'm wondering what's the story there, because even your logo is a cross, but cross is not a very friendly emoji, I guess.
Shout out to the camp team. I love Narav and the team there. They're doing some incredible things. I'm really excited for what they're building. We're friendly with their team as well. We use the tent in different ways. They use it because it's camping. We use it because it's intense, and 7683 is built on intense. And so if you are intense,
I'm dead. I don't know how I missed that.
In a tent, yeah. So
it feels
we
so
use it differently. We use it differently, but I actually don't mind. Like, if people see it in our profile and they think maybe we're associated with camp, we love camp. Camp is a great team. We love what they're doing. So yeah.
Camp's on the super chain. Are they doing? I mean, there might be some intents to, once they're on mainnet and all that. So
we love everyone building on Superchain. We have a really easy path forward to integrate with you. We're good friends with the Optimism team. And if you've seen, we actually have an ongoing campaign right now, the 7683 campaign. Teams like Optimism and World Chain and so many others have come out, and they are basically saying, we believe that intents are the future. This is the way to unify Ethereum. And they're backing this kind of campaign with us. So if you're building on the super chain and you are looking for the fastest decentralized bridge that you can find, the cheapest, Blake is laughing because I'm making the sales pitch, but we're here.
No, you should be. That's what,
Yeah.
You talking to wallet providers as well, I'm assuming, how?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We are. Yeah. So it's interesting because I think typically when you think of bridge, you just think about the protocols that you need to integrate with to connect all the layers. But you can't just connect the layers. You also have to be integrated into the dApps that are providing the user experience.
Yeah.
So wallets are a great example, marketplaces, and so many others. Like there's lots anywhere that you're transacting on the blockchain and you want to have multiple layers kind of represented. That's where Across can come in. Maybe the best way to think about it is like the goal is to eventually get to a point where users can check out with one click. You don't have to think about your wallet. You don't have to switch. It just, you go, you want to buy X, you click buy, and it's done. And that's where we're headed.
Well, with two different, like UMA and Across, to me, as I was doing my research, they seem so different. They work with different brands. The communication is completely different. Yeah. I mean, I know that you have sort of a team-led content as well, but you all have like this little UMA emoji. And to me, it was even a bit confusing, like how do these, interact in general? Yeah. As I was digging into it, it was clear. But as a head of marketing of two of these products, how do you, divide your time between both? What's the prioritization?
Yeah. Thank you for acknowledging that. It is tricky. Right? Like they are, especially to like the end user, they're two very different products. The background and like UMA does secure Across. And so we have some layering there, but for the end user, for the most part, that probably doesn't matter as much as we would want it to. And that's okay. For us as a marketing team, I think, let's be honest, like most people are doing Web3 marketing like really poorly. And I'm not trying to be like, hey, look at me, pat me on the back. Like, it's not me, it's our team. What we're doing is we're looking at ways that we can make the biggest positive impact in the space. And so if you look at the common thread that runs through both of these things between UMA and Across, there are deep needs at like a fundamental level for humans interacting on the blockchain. One is we need truth. We need to know what's true. That needs to be verifiable. Society needs that. That's a pillar of understanding. If we denigrate what truth is, we will unravel as society. That's majorly important. And if you're interacting on the blockchain, you need to be able to move between chains seamlessly. and not have this fragmented experience. That's where we're sitting with Across, and we're trying to fix these like deep-rooted fundamental issues and using blockchain technology to do that. But I think at the very core of it, the reason that it works well for our team, one, it's our team structure. We have folks who are dedicated to UMA, we have folks who are dedicated to Across, and then we have some who kind of sit in between both. That works really well for us at this size. As we scale, that could change in the future. But at the end of the day, like, we know why we're here. And I think what marketers in Web3 do poorly is that there's always a new shiny thing on the timeline. Always.
So many shiny things every day.
And if you let yourself get distracted, you get distracted by those things, you lose sight of your mission. And I think this team in particular, like, we know why we're here. We know the impact we're trying to make. We know what we're building is the right path. That's where we're going. And we're not so easily distracted by the shiny things.
I love it. Well, at the end of the day, right? I think that the thing sometimes we lose sight of is, the financialization of these crypto markets, and people get all excited about bull market, bear market, but that's the whole promise of Web3, right? Is how do we create a better world, a better ecosystem in terms of, even as you said earlier, like trying to decentralize truth. There's such low trust in media today as is. How do we rebuild that system? Exciting. Yeah.
It's interesting because it's a challenge to, like, Web3 has a branding challenge in general as we want to bring it to the masses.
Yeah.
Like we've seen over and over and over the headlines that are so-and-so gets drained of millions of dollars, or such and such company is fraudulent. The whole FTX debacle will be the stain on our shirt as Web3 for a long time. But I think that's a marketing problem as much as it is a builder's problem. We need to make sure that the folks who are building and doing it right and here trying to make a positive impact are the ones who are in those headlines, not the ones that are there today. And that's a challenge. Like that's a really big mountain to try to tackle.
Market's making a big impact. That's a start, right?
I think so. Like I was actually
good thing UMA is connected.
Yeah, I was really nervous about, like, how does this go? How does the election turn out? Like, does Polymarket get trashed in the kind of general media sphere? And for the most part, like,
wisdom of the crowd won. Light. You said at the very beginning,
exactly.
Polymarket was the first to report the truth. And I think now I was reading a thing today, which is just, people have already been skeptical of traditional polling methods for the past several election cycles, but now people are financially invested in actually getting to the accurate result. Seems like there's something there, right? So
the future of truth is decentralized. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, James, how big is your marketing team that you're leading?
Well, we're growing. So this is my plug. If you're interested in joining our team, we're looking for a DevRel, and we're also hiring a product marketing manager. If you're interested, come join our team. But currently, actually, let me do a head count because we've been growing, which is really fun. We have like 10 of us. Yeah.
That's between both Across and UMA, right? So I know you are not going to tell me what your marketing budget is, but can you tell me what is the bigger chunk of it? Because, a lot of projects spend a big chunk of their marketing budget on something like events. I haven't seen you talk about DevCon all that much, so I assume that's not part of your budget. That's not what you're capitalizing on. So I'm curious what you are.
Yeah, we do have a lot of team members who are going to DevCon, and we're sponsoring a few events and things, but I haven't been talking about it as much personally because I have FOMO. I'm not going, so I'm kind of missing out. But no, I think events are a big part of it. I won't say too much, but keep an eye out for what we've got coming for ETH Denver next year. We're gonna blow up kind of the way that people think about conference marketing. It's too many folks, I think, show up to conferences and they just throw a bunch of money at it and hope that turns into some sense of ROI. And I'm just like, I don't see it. It doesn't justify spending tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars just to, like, seem like you know how to throw a party. Like that's not ROI for us. Exactly.
I'm just, my creative brain is humming and I'm like, there's something about tents to go to tents. Denver has a lot of tents. There's a lot of tent puns and marketing.
I'll tell you more off the record. I'll tell you more off the record. But we've got some things in store.
Just thinking. Sorry
No. It's okay. What I think about when I think about our marketing budget is there are things that we can invest in that help us to stand out. And then there are things that you can invest in that just you blend in with the noise. I'm trying to avoid the noise and find new ways to stand out. And that's where we're spending our money.
Nice. Yeah,
if only more marketers thought like that. Instead of I
hope they do. Like, we need better. Web3 deserves better. I think we got, if I can just call it like it is, like, we've gotten really lazy. Like, crypto Twitter, we just take what's in front of us right in the moment. There's not much strategic planning. There's not much foresight. There's not much. I think there are a few companies who do it really well, and they have a strong narrative. They have a strong mission, and they're doing a really good job of perpetuating that with their marketing efforts. But probably 95% are just doing it really poorly.
But I think it's this fast food mentality where people want gains really fast. Like they want a meme coin to go to the moon and they're well off, in the same way that they want ROI really fast, in the same way that they want to grow really fast without any sort of preparation, fundamental work and strategy. And that's not really happening. And I think that marketing is maturing more and more every year. I definitely see progression. It's happening, but it's happening slowly.
I'm really lucky too. Like I said, I've only been here about 8 weeks. I've inherited like truly a world-class marketing team. We're a very data-driven company. Like, if you don't know, Across Protocol and UMA Protocol are both like very technical teams. And coming into a team like this, where we're data-driven, ROI matters a lot. We're constantly thinking through our OKRs, our KPIs, like those. Maybe most folks would write off a lot of those things as like traditional marketing, but I think what we have is we have a North Star. We know the direction we're going in, and we know how to test the shiny objects and say, does this contribute to what we're doing, or is it a distraction? And most of the time they're distractions. But huge shout out to the team. Like, I feel so lucky to have inherited some of the best marketers I've ever worked with.
Well,
let's go.
Here's a spicy question that I just cooked up. But every brand in crypto wants a community, right? Would you say you have one? And if you would, where would you say it's stronger, Across or UMA?
Ooh. Okay, that is spicy.
I have to pick your favorite child. Let's go.
We absolutely have community. I was just on a community call last week, Friday, and I shared with our community, like, we are nothing without our community. We can build the best product, the fastest bridge, the most truth-finding oracle. Like, it doesn't matter how good our product is if we don't have a community who's there with us in the trenches, building with us, giving us feedback, being our users. Like, that's really where we have the magic kind of secret sauce of Web3 is in our community. I don't know which one is better. They're very different. Like, our UMA community and the ones who are like have been part of UMA since day one, they're a unique group of folks who they will show up every day and vote and reveal, and they'll commit their votes, and they're like in so many ways they are our front lines of discovering truth. And then on the Across side, it's a little bit not a but an like on the other side, the Across community, I think it's a very different kind of group, but they show up because they've used our product and they believe in it. Like, if you haven't, like, go bridge something from 2L2s and just see how fast it is, like, and how cheap it is. Like, you won't get that kind of experience in many products in the space. And when they experience that product, like, it's like when you go out to eat and you have an incredible dining experience, you tell all your friends and you go back. And you come back every time you have a date night or every time you have a birthday, you're back at that place because it was so memorable and so impactful. I think that's what we get with Across. The product is incredible. People love to talk about it, and they keep coming back.
Wow. We'll test it out for sure.
You have to turn that into a landing page or marketing. I mean, just even hearing that, I'm like, ooh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Some fun
I love that.
getting thing you could do with that.
Let's do a quick fire round.
Pauline, you want to kick it off? Yeah.
Okay. First one. An underrated Web3 marketing advice or.
Reply to all of your community members. Engage with them. That's it.
I like it. Which crypto brands you would say are crushing it right now on social, maybe, or grow?
Story Protocol. Shout out to Jason and the team there. They're incredible. I love what they're doing. Good friends. They're crushing it on the marketing side. I know it's quick fire round, but to name your testnet Iliad, to name your testnet 2 Odyssey, and your headquarters to be on Homer Street, like, you can't make that up, man.
The lore.
Exactly.
Did so well.
Yes. Yeah. They're doing incredible. I love what they're doing.
They're good. Okay, next one. Worst marketing advice that you've seen pushed in crypto?
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
So many.
Working with KOLs. No offense if you're a KOL and that's what you do. I'm not a big fan of it because it's 99% of the time it's done poorly and it's inauthentic and we all see right through it.
Okay, so Across and UMA are not working with KOLs, I take.
It's not that we won't. It's that if you see us doing it, it will be very intentional.
Okay.
Instead of just paying like $5K a post, you don't
exactly.
Yeah, it's lazy.
And the last one to wrap it up is what keeps you up at night about marketing at Risk Labs, about UMA.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think the thing that keeps me up at night the most is I know our product can actually solve the problems that we're all feeling. Like the fragmentation issue is a great example. Getting the word out to as many people as possible is my hurdle, and it's the thing that keeps me up at night. It's like, how do we get their attention? I just need you to use it once. You use that product one time, you're sold. I know you will be. I just need you to get in the door.
I had that pop-up restaurant experience, that like dining experience you're talking about, right?
That's it.
That's maybe what's happening, next year.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? We'll find out.
We'll see.
Don't want to give too much away. Beautiful. All right, well, I think we do have to wrap it up here.
But thanks, James, for coming on.
James, this
was
really fun.
Like, genuinely, you guys are great. This was very natural, and like I just look up to both of you. You guys are doing some really good work in the space. I appreciate you both.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
We're just trying to uplift this space together. I'm sure there's, we'll keep running into each other. Connect me with some of your folks at DevCon. We're doing a little thing next week, so yeah.
Let's do it. I'll make sure we connect on the site.
All right. Well, listen. Awesome. Thanks so much, James. See you online.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Talk soon. Yeah, and thank you to everyone for listening. And last thing, James, quick time to show yourself, UMA, Across. I mean, they're all tagged here in the Twitter, but this will go on the podcast next week. So maybe we just repeat it. Yeah. How do they find you and everyone?
Find us on Twitter. That's the biggest thing. And like I said, we're hiring. I'm looking for like a world-class DevRel and just a solid product marketing manager. If you're interested in working with a team that's like, we're literally changing the world, come work with us.
Okay. And we'll drop the handles in the podcast as well. So beautiful.
Sweet.
Okay.
Thank you both.
All right. Thanks so much, James.
Thanks.
Thank you to everyone for listening. Till soon.
See you online.
Bye, Joe.
Bye, everyone.